Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Zen Lounge. I have a very special guest, Mark Ryan. He is a renowned hypnotherapist. He's also an expert in neuro-linguistic programming and many more fields. Mark, how many fields are you trained in?
I don't know. I've taken all kinds of, thanks for having me on, by the way, Zach. Nice to see you. And thanks to your audience. Many different things along the way with the hypnotherapist trainings and the NLP trainings. Usually there'd be somebody within the training that was teaching another course to get certified or not, just to learn it. And pretty well, if I was there and I had the time, I'm like, yeah, sign me up. Let's go. So there's eye movement integration. I've done some work with Reiki, energy work, different things we won't talk about here on the show. And so a lot of different things. If it has to do with learning, if it has to do with learning to help people, learning to understand people, their belief systems, their religion, whatever it is, and it's involved, sign me up for it. I'm going to give it a shot and see what happens. So lots, Zach, to answer your question.
Yeah, I noticed because when I did training with you last year, it seems like you like morphed all these different concepts and fields and created a version that worked for you. And yeah, really impressed with what I've learned from you over the past year.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I always found that in learning different things, it would come in useful to me to talk to people. And when I'm doing work with people, a lot of it is finding out what their model of the world is, what their map of the world is. And if I know that map or know a little bit about it, then it's going to help create rapport, which is people start to trust you and they'll open up and reveal more to you, which as somebody that's coaching and doing work with people, I'll take as much of that as I can get to help find out what's going on with the problem and the level of trust that's there. It's big when you're coaching, when you're in sales, whatever you're doing, is to establish a level of trust. So if I can learn more about what the person is interested in or values, then, and I've got that knowledge and they start talking about something, I'm okay with learning more to find out where their model is and where my model is. And if I'm lacking in my map, then if I can add some new routes, I'm going to add them. I'm going to find out. I'll ask questions. Tell me more about that. I don't understand that. How do I get from here to here? Or what would you do to build a bridge and see where they are, see how their mind works?
So that's actually one of the golden rules of NLP. The map is not the territory. Can you explain that in layman's terms for someone that's never taken an NLP class before? What's important about the concept of the map is not the territory?
Well, I'll refer back to one of the co-founders of NLP, Richard Bandler, and he says, you see him, I may be off track on this too. It's a Sunday morning, so I'm going to use that as an excuse. That's part of my map. So Bandler would say, just you see the menu, you see what's on the menu, but you don't eat the menu. So you look at a map to get somewhere, whether it's on your phone, the GPS system, or the old Ram McNally maps that we'd have in our car, and say, okay, we're here. We want to go here. So we kind of like as the crow flies, it would be a straight line, but how do we get there? So we have ways of getting there where you may say, I'm going to take this route close to the coast. Somebody say, no, I'd rather take the mountain route. And so their maps, your map is going to be different than other people's maps. Although you want to start at the same place and get to the same place, how you get there, your map of the trip, the journey through life, most likely is going to be different. There's going to be similar, but everybody's got a different map. I hope I answered the question that you asked me.
Well, I've noticed that some people really, especially in the truth-seeking move, a lot of people that follow this are like in the truth-seeking community. So it's almost like everybody wants everybody to have the exact same map, and they get really upset when somebody has a different map. And it's funny because usually yeah, you're right. If you take different routes, you end up at the same destination if you're really on a truth-seeking path. So yeah, it's really crazy. And also how what I've learned too is like a lot of this map is created before we're even intelligent enough to make a good map. Like from the age of 0 to 7, right? We're really creating a lot of our model of the world. Would you agree with that or not?
Yeah, I think it's a solid basic foundation, you know, of for those that want to look at that. You study look at some of the work of, I think his first name was Jean Piaget, was his last name. So he looked at, I think, 40,000 kids and studied them and seeing what was hardwired in there. So you got the hardwired and then you got the soft wired. So it's kind of like if you buy a computer, what's the RAM of it, you know, what are the hard drives capable of doing, transfer of information, all that's hardwired in there. So if you buy the computer and I buy the computer, we're pretty well going to get the same map of a computer and the same results of doing things. But then what software we put in there determines what we do along those hardwired lines. And Piaget studied what was hardwired, you know, so there's certain things, and I think he came up with like 7 major things. And if you ask me to say what they are, I don't remember what they are right now, but there's certain things. Well, one of them I do remember is like black and white thinking, that we're hardwired to only be able to say it's black, it's either or, black and white. It's not shades of gray in the middle. We kind of learn that later on once we have a foundation established. But a lot of times when I'm working with people, they either got to do that or they got to do that before I forgive them or before I let it go. It's either got to be that, and they're, because they're hardwired in it, this black and white, with the issue, with the problem, it gets almost like solidified within their system, even though in other areas they may go shades of gray. Well, we could do this, we could try that, you know, the speed limit is 55. Well, what if I won't feel like going 45? What if I feel like going 65 and take a chance? So we have different maths. It doesn't have to be either 55 or nothing. You don't have either 55 or I'm going to be in trouble. No, we've got shades of gray. But people that get stuck with problems a lot of times, either or, black and white thinking, and that's one of the things he discovered, that at a younger age, up to 7, like you said, that this is kind of like hardwired in. So now just imagine if you think that you have to drive at 55 and you're going on a mountain road and you're going too fast. You don't have to, you could slow down. So a lot of time people with problems is they think, no, it's either this way or the highway, or, and they have to do things a certain way. And if they don't do it, there's trouble, or and that is the problem. That's the, like, kind of the creation of the problem. So I'll go into that a little bit and find out, and then have them experiment with shades of gray, because I realize they're stuck with this problem. Not everything in life, it might be that way, but just with, let's say, this problem, they're stuck in a black and white, either or type of thinking. And then give some options. A lot of times they'll go, I never thought about that. And people say, well, that's simple. What do you mean they never thought about that? Well, if they're stuck, if I have a coin, a quarter, and I put it on the table heads up, and I say, okay, tell me what's on the back of that quarter, you might say, well, there's an eagle or something. Well, what's it got in there? What's it say on the back of there? So it's hard to get that information because it's not right in front of you. So if you're able to then open that up, and I've done so much work with people since the, what, 85, 80, 86, I started playing with it and studying it. Tony Robbins, actually, it was a Tony Robbins book. And so learning this over years, now I have different reference points to go back, and if I hear I can hear what's missing. I could see how they access their eye movements to tell me what part of the brain that they're in. And I could take that information and flesh it out, ask some more questions and find out. And then where's the missing information? What are they not considering? And I can see I'm rambling a little bit here, but and this is kind of what the work that I'm doing with people, whether teaching in a classroom or as we've done some sales stuff, to find out a lot of times when I did some authentic speaker stuff with John Overdurf, who's a mentor of mine, and he'd bring me in because I could look at people and I could say, all right, here's what's missing. They're professional speakers, but they're not bringing in their authentic self. It's missing. The key is, how do you get it out? How do you flesh it out? What kind of questions do you ask? How do you get them into that state and then say, okay, from that state, now speak? You know, we did this a couple years last time because of the COVID. Last time I did this speaker thing. These are professional speakers, people that already speak before big audiences, that are coming to improve. Well, what is it that the problem? They weren't including their authentic self. They were only doing and including who they thought they should be. So the course over a week was to find out who they are, to get that natural ability of who they are as a speaker, or it could be as a salesman or a ball player or whatever you do. I worked with a guy the other week, and it was sales. He thought sales was a certain thing he had to do. He had to fit in, put on a suit, a map. He thought it was a certain map, and he couldn't fit into the map. And so that gave him a belief that I can't do this. And so it was like, okay, working on that. When he found out what it really was, that he's already wearing the suit, he didn't have to put it on. He just had to learn how to bring that out. And it felt natural to him. Well, he doesn't have to remember to feel natural. In that context, yes, but pretty well throughout the day, he's being himself, who he is. So anyways, I'm rambling on, Zach. You can go ahead.
I'm super excited to take that speaker course soon. So that's awesome. That's one of the biggest things that shifted my life. I notice all the time, I could do this or I could do this. Then you find out, wow, you could actually do both. And then it's like, I have a limited amount of possibilities available to me at all times. As long as I don't do this or that, that totally shifted my life. And I want to ask you a question. Do you think that
Sure.
it's possible that like we could actually evolve where we're in an evolution period? Because I don't know if you heard, but quantum computers are basically being developed right now. And that's kind of how quantum computers work. It's like there's unlimited amount of possibilities in quantum computers, whereas these traditional computers is kind of like this or that type of coding. So I'm wondering if these quantum computers coming out are going to help kind of us think at a higher level as well. So like, do you know anything about that or no?
I don't know a whole lot. I know a little bit about AI. I mean, when I went to college years ago, it was in computer science, data processing, and programming and things like that. So, but that was when computers were huge machines. I
Right.
mean, what you got that you're, recording us on right now is so much more powerful than these big machines in college were. And we did the punch cards where we had to, I don't know if you're probably not old enough with the Al Gore Bush hanging Chad in Florida, we used to do punch cards and have long boxes full of sometimes thousands of these punch cards, definitely hundreds. And if
You
there
know,
was go ahead.
what's funny is NLP was, correct me if I'm wrong, but was birthed around the same time that computers were developed, right? Like around the same time as when Steve Jobs was building the computer. NLP came with the same approach. Like, wow, okay, like let's look at the mind almost like a computer where we can change it and rewire it
Yes.
and help people. Like if there's one person, like the map concept, if there's one person that's doing something excellent, that person has the map. Let's ask them some questions, learn that map, so we could do that as well in a lot faster amount of time. That's kind of like what I took away from NLP. Um, um, what's your thoughts on like the creation of NLP and everything like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different stories, but one of them is that's how Richard Bandler, one of the co-founders and the co-developers of NLP, was. This is the story. The story could be true. It may not be true, but this may help a little bit for some of the listeners. The NLP, that in front, when he was thinking about naming it, he talked about the aspect of doing hypnosis. Richard is kind of he liked to play with people a little bit. He had a different way. He wasn't your typical professor or typical college teacher, professor. So that people told him about hypnosis, and they're like, "Don't do hypnosis. It doesn't work, and it's bad." And he'd go, "Well, how can it be bad if it doesn't work?" You know. So he goes, "Now I'm interested." So that got him interested. But apparently, he was sitting at his desk trying to come up with a name for this open-eyed hypnosis that he was developing, NLP. And he said there was a neurology book, a linguistic book, and a computer programming book, neuro-linguistic programming. Now, some of the people I studied under, John Overdurf, he called neuro-linguistic psychology. They changed the P from programming because it seemed pretty hardcore, kind of like what you're talking about, the artificial intelligence and the way they're programming computers to think on their own. But anyways, I think I might have veered off. Did I answer I think that the
Yeah, yeah,
programming part of it, but he was into computer program. He's a mathematician, genius mathematician and a programmer. And that's one of the things that when I first got into it, at a friend of mine's house, there's a Tony Robbins book, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, wow, this is reminding me of computer programming of the brain,
yeah,
reverse
exactly.
engineering what works. And there's stories about how, excuse me, Richard Bandler developed ways of modeling people, finding out their maps of the world that were successful or had gotten over a phobia. He'd put an ad in a paper. I want to talk to people, and I'm willing to pay you for that have had a phobia and then gotten over it. And so he paid him to interview him and found out, like, well, what happened? How'd you get over it? And he found out that everybody he interviewed was basically saying the same thing, to get over a phobia. So he said, what's a good phobia? Fear of elevators. So he was in Atlanta. He went to I don't know if it's the CNN towers, those elevator on the outside with clear glass. And so he realized the people that worked up on top had to get up to work. And if they weren't taking the elevator because they had a phobia, they were going to have to walk up the stairs. So he put cure phobias for $5. So he found out the people that were successful in getting over their phobias and how they were saying the same thing. He goes, huh. And so he kind of played it in his mind, and then he put a little booth out that he says this. Now, whether he really did this, I don't know, but I got to believe him. And he put it for $5, and he said he ran the process through with people, pay him $5, and he ran the process through, and he says they'd get on the elevator. So he realized they realized, a lot of the people that were part of the co-founders, co-developers, that you can backward engineer how stuff is done. And sometimes with computer programming, you kind of go forwards and backwards to see how it works each way. How would you do something if I was going to do that? How would I do that? That worked. What else could we do with it? So and I'm going to ramble. I'm a rambler, as you know. So if I'm off
Well,
track,
one of the
let me
one of
know.
the things I wanted to talk to you about too, because I've been listening to a lot of yours and John's work, is so like when all this was developed, Richard was going out there doing amazing things. Then people try to start doing studies, and the studies weren't really, us as NLP practitioners would be like, this isn't legit. Like you're not taking any account into the practitioner itself. A bunch of other. I'm not going to go into all that.
Sure.
Years go by. Years go by. Now they're with all the new brain science and the new research, neuroscience, all this coming out. We're actually learning that yeah, the brain is what's it uh, neuroplasticity, like the brain is
Neuroplasticity. Yeah. Yeah.
neuroplasticity. The brain can change. The brain, all the stuff that we've been talking about for the past 40 years, a lot of it's being verified and it's actually being proven. And
See, now you said we've been talking about the last 40 years. Now I know you're not 40 years old. So
as
that
a
would
whole
be
field,
something
yeah.
NLP. I get what you're saying we've been talking about for the last 4, but that's the kind of things that I'll hear and say, I'll go back and I'll make a note and go back and say, tell me about that aspect. But I interrupted you. Forgive me. Go ahead and say, so
Yeah, so it's really amazing that it's actually how far the field has developed. And I would love to talk to you about, I think the audience will get a lot of value from this because I do this all the time, but learning about the brain waves that we're actually in throughout life. So um, obviously, a lot of people are operating out of beta, the beta frequency.
high
Can we
beta. Yeah.
can we talk
High.
about that?
Sure. A little bit. I'm not up on the frequencies, but I'll give you what I do know. And there's, there's always places you can go and find out more about it, but sure, go ahead, shoot. Let's see where it goes.
Well, as I know, okay, so on the day to day, and we're alert, just going through the day to day life, we're usually in the beta. And from what I heard, is it's not exactly a good or bad thing, but you can get into anxiety and different negative states, correct?
Yeah, and beta has different frequencies, so it has a tendency to be what they call more high beta, so a faster frequency. And one of the ways to get out of beta, if you're going to, I mean, the easiest way, there used to be I think it was the Silva method. I don't know if you ever heard of the Silva mental training method. And basically, one of the first things they would do is just say, okay, close your eyes. Well, you're pretty well, once you close your eyes, you're dropping from beta down into alpha because you've cut off so much visual. So much of our sensors in our body, our feeling sensors, our hearing sensors, our eye sensors, our taste and smell sensors, the visual consumes the most RAM, let's say, and processing. So once you shut that down, your frequencies are going to slow down and kind of start to bring you down into alpha. So it starts off with beta up high, the higher frequencies, but your ability to perceive and use your sensors isn't as powerful. It's limited. It's more for, there's this, our nervous system is sympathetic and parasympathetic. And parasympathetic is more the relaxation response. Sympathetic is going to be more on alert. And it seems like the society that we live in, to sell you things, to get you to believe certain things, they're going to keep you in sympathetic, high beta, because of the information and the way we process stuff. We can't see all the answers. Part of the deal is, like, if I'm working with you and you got an issue and I can see you're individual and you're going really fast and you're in high beta, and then just as I'll say, close your eyes and shift your breathing a little bit and do different things, because I know that's going to bring you into a different state, which then is going to have access to other abilities in your mind and your body. So if I keep in high beta, you don't have access to a lot of the abilities and skills that you possess. You get to see more. So what we'll do is work on slowing that down, put you in a different state, find out more about the issue once you're in a different state, because you now have access to other information. Is that making any kind of sense to you at all, what I'm saying?
100% makes complete sense.
So was that, and hopefully I answered your question, because a lot of times I'll start answering my own questions as I go through the process of, excuse me, of answering your questions. So make sure
Yeah,
you get your
yeah,
answers.
yeah. So what I experience is when I'm in my beta, I'm like constantly trying to think. Let's just talk about like a metaphor with basketball. When I was playing sports, it's like I'm consciously trying to think of what move I'm going to do to get my defender, and I have it in my mind what I'm going to do, but then it's not really the right time to do it. Whereas when I'm able to lower and enter that alpha state, really get into that flow.
Well, like Csikszentmihalyi, I think that Czechoslovakian scientist, Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi, wrote the book Flow, which talks about that. That's, you'll see when Michael Jordan, he was able to hit that state, just like what you're talking about. He'd get in there and his body was lined up with your mind. So if that's one of the things that you start to get down into alpha, but you're not going to close your eyes on the court, right?
Yeah, so
So
I'm in this alpha, and then everything just flowing. I know the right thing to say. I don't have to think about what I'm going to do. I just react, and it's like unconscious. And the more that I find myself in alpha, it's like, wow, there's so much more possibilities, and I'm able to just maneuver and pivot a lot easier and achieve a lot more. So
it's
just that
expanded
simple,
awareness. It's an
yeah,
expanded awareness.
it's incredible. And you don't know how many times, like, 'cause you know what I do on my phone when I'm working with people on the phone a lot during the day. And when I'm in this state, the alpha state, something will just pop into my awareness where I'm like, Zach, say this right now. And then I'll
Yes.
just go with it. I say it, and the person goes like, wow, that's exactly what I needed to hear. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is profound. It's almost like you enter this,
A
this,
different state,
yeah,
actually. You're dropping below alpha and you're starting to go into theta. And then there's delta. When we sleep, there's more delta. But theta is more the state where a lot of people talk about paranormal activities or paranormal abilities. And our military, when they talked about remote viewing, it was getting people down into theta because they had access to information where people say, I had one guy who's from New Zealand. He says, lad, I don't know how you know what you knew, and I don't want to know. But he goes, I got to go take a break because you just floored me. And I had a sense of it, but it would just, like you're saying, come out. It would just, be there, and you'd like know what to say, but you weren't thinking in beta about what to say or how to say. It just appeared. It was insight. It was there because you had slowed down beyond alpha. You got a lot of that will come in alpha, but if you start to go into the higher theta states, because theta will kind of, when we get up in the morning or go to sleep at night, we're starting to transfer through theta into delta, into sleep. So there are different states that if we're aware of, we can actually trigger, and we may not get special paranormal stuff every single time, but like you've experienced yourself, you're more apt to get it, and it'll surprise you.
And just so you guys know, if you're okay, Mark, at the end of this, if we could do like a quick alpha sequence just to teach people how to get into the state.
Sure.
Okay,
It
cool.
was developed by John Overdorf. It's not mine, but I use it. He's giving me permission to use it. I use it so much, and it's helped so many people. Sure, we can do that.
So another thing is, so a lot of people that follow me, they're really into spirituality and evolution. So when I took the training with you, we were talking, and alpha is awesome. Like it's really good for performance, getting in the zone. If you have a lot of anxiety, it's really important to learn this so that way you could become free from it. Now, there are other states that you were mentioning, and one of the things you mentioned were a lot of these profound esoteric teachings, or these monks, or these people that, like in Tibet, that have this higher consciousness. They're usually in. They're able to not only get into alpha, they're able to get themselves into almost like those sleep-like states while they're awake. So
They
what is
get
that?
into
That
sleep states. They actually, some of the people are like, "How are you awake? Everything is showing you should be sound asleep right now." But they're able to condition their mind to be awake in those delta states.
those
And
delta states, huh? It's
delta,
delta.
but if you kind of, they're still studying it, but they knew that if some of these, who was it, the Dalai Lama, I think, lent some of his monks to a study that they did. I think it might have been done in France. Don't hold me to it. I'm not sure. But they talked about how they weren't picking up readings for it, and they weren't positive of like what was going on with these guys, but they, through the paranormal stuff, so they know they had the theta, and that they had, but what was happening was, and it was discovered kind of by accident, that they were going beyond what they thought was alpha or beta down into alpha and then theta and then delta. But they discovered, wow, there's actually a frequency that goes way above beta that is kind of inclusive of everything. It's kind of a gestalt where you have the abilities, they had the ability, these monks, where they were meditating, to say, we haven't seen anything like this. Anyways, how they got there, you can find out through many different mind books. Ultimately, they discovered that there was another state that they were resonating at, and I think that was above 45 to 100. So, your betas like 13 to 25. I don't know this is the stuff I was talking about. I can't give you the exact frequencies, but there was a whole nother state that they were attaining that included so much more information. And that was, you might have to help me with this. I'm trying to remember what the heck the state was now. Do you remember the state that we were talking about in the seminar?
Um,
What a time for my mind to do it. So it was, there's a higher state. I can't believe this
Beta.
is, no, beta,
Like
alpha,
beta.
theta,
Oh,
gamma. It was
gamma,
gamma.
gamma. Yeah, gamma.
Gamma.
That's
Sorry
it.
about that. And that the frequency was way higher, but it was almost as if it was like a seed, like you have building blocks within the seed, but the gamma was kind of encompassed everything and like included everything. So they're thinking maybe that's where the monks had the ability to do so many things because they were being open and inclusive to these higher states of gamma.
Wow. Yeah, I remember when you took us through the exercise and we were playing with the different brain waves. It was just amazing how much different information would come in each one. It kind of reminds me of how the Greeks, when they would debate, they would debate a topic sober, and then they would drink. I mean, and then they would have all this new information to come back. And this is the way we could do this sober without actually having to drink alcohol. Because, I mean, they drink, they enter a new state of consciousness, obviously new brain waves, and then come back with all these fresh ideas, similar to you have us read a quote, and then we go through different brain waves, and we have a different profound meaning each time. And that's just how it is for me going out into the world. Is could always do like a reset. We'll show you guys how to do this in a moment. A few other topics I wanted to talk to you about, because I've been really going deep on a lot of you and John's podcast, and I think a lot of people could benefit from the concept of thriving in uncertainty. So a lot of people on my channel, they're invested into different stocks, cryptos. No matter how much research we do, no matter how much time we put into it, really, we're not really in control. Like, it is pretty uncertain whether it's going to go up or whether it's going down, and it's kind of a reflection for life. Like the past year, nobody expected what happened to happen. Nobody was prepared for it, but a lot of people are still kind of frozen from last year. But then there's other people who have the right tools, have created more success than ever. So it's kind of like we're in this stage of uncertainty. Some people are able to thrive, some people are stuck. So can you touch on your thoughts on thriving in uncertainty?
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember some of there was one story I brought up about, I think I was doing some research with John over there on this, and I had found some studies. I think it was Rand Corporation, where they were studying people in the Air Force, and there was, and I may be missing some of the elements of this. The gist of it is that there was a bomb that went off in Afghanistan at a base, at an American base, and some of the people really experienced some extreme post-traumatic stress, but other ones didn't experience that much of it. So they were like, all right, what's the difference? Why it's the same bomb? They were all there. Some people were killed, but why are these people bothered by it, and why are these not? So they wanted to get down into what was happening with these people. And what they found was that the people that had just gone out to eat lunch, because it had happened, the bombing happened during lunch, the ones that had just gone out to eat lunch and then were like permanent at the base had the worst post-traumatic stress. But the group that didn't have the post-traumatic stress, they were supposed to be out on reconnaissance missions. So they were there, they were just eating, but then the reconnaissance mission was they're supposed to go out, find the enemy, kill the enemy, destroy it, or destroy the enemy's plans to hurt our people. So the different parts of the brain, they discovered that there's the old limbic system that was kind of in place for certain people that were just going to have lunch, but then there was a squirrel part of the brain, the midbrain, with the reconnaissance people, that they were more vigilant. They were in a mode of preparing to go take action. So the ones that just thought we're going to eat lunch, just do nothing, had the post-traumatic stress response. But the ones that were on the reconnaissance had been trained and were in training mode, that at any time they could be out going looking for the enemy. So their midbrain was more active. And so they decided, how do we get to and is this kind of what you were talking about? I just want to make sure I'm hitting on the right ground here with the story. To say, well, what do we do to get, which some people call the squirrel brain, the midbrain. If you look at a squirrel as it's crossing the road, you just go, keep going, buddy. Come on, keep going. You know, as you get closer to the squirrel, keep going, don't stop. But the squirrel's like, do I go back into the old brain, or do I keep going? And this is a lot of times stuff what people have with problems when you're talking about people freezing, you know, or going forward, that some people are handling it better depending on what kind of state of the mind you're in. So if we can help figure out ways to get to these states of mind, thus like the alpha sequence, when we're going to interpret the event differently. And that's what these guys did, because they were in different frequencies, different states of mind. So they're interpreting the event the explosion, the death, everything that happened differently of being in a forward thinking type squirrel brain, not your high brain, but more in the midbrain. And if I remember, that's kind of what we were talking about, is how, and so the RAND study, one of the things they dealt with pilots on the uncertainty was they would take these pilots and they would drop them at different places or eject them at different places or have them land. So if they were on a bombing raid, unless they got shot down, they didn't know where they were. That's what? Huge uncertainty. You're facing the possibility of death, people shooting at you. They've already knocked your plane down. You parachute out, you land somewhere, you don't know where you're at. What do? You're stuck. What do? You're full of uncertainty. Well, we knew the first thing that they could do was shift their breathing. If they started to change their breathing, the uncertainty is, I don't have any control. So the level of control that you want in society of what everybody's worried about, what everybody's concerned about, what the heck is going on? I don't have any control the way I used to have. There's a lot of things. I got to wear a mask now. People are trying to get me to do a vaccination, all this other stuff. I don't have any control. Other people are trying to control me. So they knew that the pilots that were parachuted and they got to a place where they were safe, they still had a ton of uncertainty. What do they do with the uncertainty? And what they taught them to do is change their breathing, because that's one thing you do have control of, is your breathing, and it will shift and change a lot of different things. And that's the beginning of the alpha sequence. It was coming about, like, what things can you have control over in your closer surroundings? Because before, pre-COVID, we had a lot of control. We could go different places, we could do different things, walk into restaurants, whatever. We had the ability to make decisions. Then COVID comes along and you got people saying you can't do that anymore. Well, what can I do? I'm uncertain now. What can I do? You have to wear a mask. Does a mask really help? I don't know. There's a lot of studies that say that I've seen stuff on Facebook and different places where it shows a guy building a chain link fence. And the guy says, what are you doing? And it says, I'm trying to keep, protect myself from any bad fumes or pollution. It's like, everybody knows it's like, it's going to go right. Some people say, well, that's like the mask. It's going to go right through it. So it's uncertainty. It's total uncertainty about your reality. What are these guys telling the truth? Have they done studies on it? The vaccination, they ever want us all to get vaxxed, but has this been taken through the vax procedure? Not all the way through like it's supposed to be. So there's a lot of uncertainty in regard to that. So what do? They say the first thing you do is start to shift your breathing, slow it down, change it, change the ratio of how you breathe in and out. What's the length of in breath? And there's several different ways that actually it's proven to change your blood gases. So it's just not like some new age thing that's coming out of India. They've done tests to see that you change your blood gases. It's science. So again, I'm rambling on. Keep talking.
No, I love it because so let me repeat. So the first thing is take a deep change of breathing.
Realize that you're on uncertainty. Realize that you're in uncertain where you're at. What's the starting point? I don't know what's going on.
That's like Napoleon Hill. Like, take response. Like, be real with where you are. Okay, I'm uncertain. Take a breath. Enter a new state. And when you enter a new state, okay, what's the next step forward that I could take? The next small step. And I see a lot of people make decisions when they're in uncertainty and they're like freaking out and their breath is shallow, they're breathing short, they're like in a state of anxiety, and then they want to make a decision. What would you say? I say most of my worst decisions are made when I'm in that state. Exactly. So the first step is, okay, I'm uncertain, get into a nice positive state, and then it's okay, what can I do to take a step forward? What's that next small thing? And I think a lot of other people too are like, they get into this trap state and they're like, think, okay, this huge giant plan, and then that plan also sometimes is overwhelming too, and then they never actually create that big plan because they're not just taking the next small step. Am I getting it right with the whole beyond goals concept? Or?
Yeah. And the thing is too, is kind of like, if you're, the way we're set up in our system, if we And that's very useful too. If I'm going out into the woods and I'm gonna go find a blueberry patch, and as I see some movement in the blueberry patch, I don't say, oh, that's interesting. And then all of a sudden I see something that looks like it could be bear fur. Oh, that's interesting. Now let me go see if this is a nice bear or not. Maybe I could go shake his hand or pet him or something like that. It's like, no, your brain wants you to get into sympathetic mode, wants you to get full of adrenaline and take off running in the other direction. The thing that then screws us up is if you're in too big of a state, if you're in too relaxed, too calm, then you think the world is beautiful, everything is love, but you got a bear that's hungry that could see you as food. So it's the old joke with the guy sitting down to put his shoes on as his friend goes, there's a bear, why are you putting your shoes on? He says, because if I can run faster than you, it's not, I don't have anything to worry about. I don't have to be faster than the bear. I just have to be faster than you. And he knew if he had his shoes on, he's going to be able to run faster than the other guy. So they're useful parts of how this is supposed to work. If somebody wants to threaten you or somebody that you love, and you might have to be in a aggressive stance or in a fight, you want to use that. But now if somebody's got a problem, an issue, they say, why do I keep doing this all the time? And they get into that sympathetic nervous system. They don't realize they're in it. Me as a coach, I can see that they're in it. Then I can help them find ways to relax that. And what happens once you relax that, and I think this is what you're asking, you have more information available to you. But sometimes you don't want more information. You just you see something, you want to run. You want to get out of there. You see somebody's coming at you and you want to fight, so that it will become useful. You don't want to be thinking about what you're going to do for tonight, how you're going to go out, how you're going to take your girlfriend or your wife to dinner, or go out with your buddies or something like that. No, immediately you want all that other information to drop away. Real tunnel vision. You're in danger. Get out of here. Boom. That's it. That's all you're supposed to be thinking about. And then the adrenaline goes to your legs and your arms, and so they can pump as you're running and get out of there, not to think about anything else. There's a time and a place for it.
Yeah, so we have these things designed like into our system to protect us, so nothing is bad. I mean, this stuff probably saved our lives when we were in the jungle and stuff. So really big. Just nowadays, I think our system is firing off sometimes when it's unnecessary. Like so it's good to learn how to manage. So if we see a bear, we probably don't want to do the alpha sequence to get into a nice state. But yeah, this is really powerful stuff. And also, I wanted to say one of the reasons why I respect you so much, because I think that's one of the golden rules of being I wanted to go back what you were talking about before. The golden rule about being a change worker in NLP and hypnosis is about being curious. So when everyone's talking about, it's almost like everyone in the trance, do this, do this, do this. This is how you stay healthy. A lot of people in our community kind of just went with that same trance, which is really easy for us because we're highly suggestible. But you're one of the few hypnotherapists that I've seen that kind of question the narratives that we're being fed. So that's one of the reasons I think you're well equipped to actually help people transform, because you're not a victim of some of the narratives. So would you say that hypnosis and some of these, like, obviously when we get into these lower brain waves, we're going to show you guys in a moment, does our immune system work better?
Well, I think that, we constantly hear the narrative in the news media and in magazines and everything that, stress is bad for your immune system. Well, what is stress? It's going to be your high beta frequencies. So if you're shifting, my presumption would be, yes, they tell us if you meditate, go meditate. And they don't distinguish a lot of times between the meditation. They say just the fact that you're meditating. But if somebody tells me, well, just go meditate, well, then that part of my brain kicks in that doesn't, well, I'm going to either meditate or not. No, I want to know what meditation is going to work really good for that, specifically for that. Not just a meditation, but in the realm of meditation, what would work the best on that? So it's able to shift that dichotomy and go and say, it's not just either or, black and white. It's within that range of meditations for this specific thing, which ones might work the best. And again, I hope I caught your question.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense to me.
So this is part of the unconscious stuff too, is a lot of times I'll get myself out of the way, kind of get in that state as I'm talking to you. If I'm really high in beta, I'm just going to be real particular with the questions and be real specific in tunnel vision. But, you know, being friends with you and talking to you before and then doing this interview, just kind of get in that state. The information will come in from all different kinds of places. So I don't necessarily have the map of, I know this is kind of like where we're going, but how did we start again? That's part of a lot of times with hypnosis, when put people in a trance and then get them out of the trance and say, how long was that? And they'll say, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes. And it's like, no, that was an hour. And they just, you lose track of time. A lot of times with hypnosis, the unconscious, these different states take over at a different place. So where you think you're going to go consciously may not be where you end up.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And you end up going to some fun areas you didn't expect to go to. And
You sure can.
yeah, the unconscious is, I do the same thing, or I'm just talking and I go into a trance and I just forget where I'm going, and okay, cool, we're here now. Let's just relax and enjoy it. I want to ask you something I already forgot right now.
Yeah. And that's
Oh, that's what I
just,
wanted to say.
go ahead.
It's
Go ahead.
almost like I love teaching this. I'm actually going to teach this. I'm doing a conference in Sedona. I'm going to teach this because this thing literally keep talking about it. I can't wait for them to do it, but it's almost like so much of our life now is we're looking so foveal just at the phone screen, and then
Fovio,
like
that's right.
everything around us disappears, and it's like only thing that exists is this phone. Someone could be talking to you and you're just like don't even hear it because you're so foveal. So as we've been going through society, we're getting more and more like closed to the rest of the world, and it
Yeah.
wasn't
And
always like that. Like back, like we were talking about when you see the bear, but when you're out in the forest, you couldn't be looking like this because tiger could jump out of the bushes. We had to be able to see everything, even behind us. Like, what's behind
and
us?
here, if our hearing gets narrowed down in foveal, if our hearing becomes foveal, along with our vision, somebody could, like you said, somebody could be standing next to you, or something could be standing next to you. You're not even aware of it. Awareness is what this is
Opportunities,
about.
opportunities.
Exactly.
Every time I meet someone, they're like, Zach, I have no opportunities. I'm stuck in that. They're focused on the junk, the garbage, and I'm stuck, Zach. I'm business. Well, have you ever thought about all of the possibilities? Then all of a sudden they could see everything because they're like in the phone vision. And I learned this from you guys, also Dr. Tad James. They learned this from a lot of Hawaiians. So it's stuff that we forgot that is super important. Um,
We
and
have a
it's super
tendency to
simple.
forget. Why? Because we're stressed out. Keeping in the fear state, keeping in the stress state. And what do we forget? We forget these natural things that the Hawaiians taught us, that different cultures have known in civilizations for years. They made them change the language, and there's a lot of different ways that they use this, and this is being used against us to control us.
Yeah. So the big thing is like you were mentioning how when we have these encounters, we either want to fight it, we want to flight, run away,
Or
or
freeze.
freeze. Now, the reasons why the Hawaiians would get into this big state, I don't think they knew consciously why they would do it, but they would get into this state. I've heard that it actually even suppresses the flight response when you're really in it. So that way you're not going, because like how often these days do we really need to fight or flight or freeze? It's kind of like, yeah, thousands of years ago that was necessary, but do we need to fight our boss or flight? We don't really need to do these responses anymore. So what I've experienced is just so much more freedom and control, and it's not as I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's so powerful. It's so powerful. Being able to have a system to erase that response that we used to be victims of, priceless.
It's kind of like the nervous systems ride parallel in our nervous system, the sympathetic, parasympathetic, and it's which one are you taking? Are you taking the crazy ride, or are you taking the peaceful train? You know, and it can do both. It can do both in the parasympathetic within our nervous system. So in a sense, it's we can think about it as it's taking it away or diminishing it, but in actuality, it's implementing another program. So when you talk about the relaxation response, that's actually a book where they had learned about the science of changing your breath. So if you implement the relaxation response, you're actually saying, I want this computer program to run. I want this application to run instead of that one. So we're not really trying to diminish the other one. We're just enhancing one of them. And by being in that relaxation state or the alpha sequence, then what happens is it automatically turns the other one off because we've entered into another application.
All I'm thinking about is just how I wish, instead of learning some pointless stuff in school, they should have taught us this at a very young age, being like, this is how your body operates. This, when you're in fear, do this. There's so much knowledge that is being kept from us. I don't know if it's being kept from us, but learning the operating system of how we work. I mean, everything I buy nowadays comes with an instruction manual. I buy a phone, whole list of instructions how to use it. No one ever is curious and like, hey, let me get the instruction manual to me as an individual. Like, why do we never ask that question? It's profound to me. And one of the best things that I've found to give you that instruction manual is NLP, hypnosis, basically the same thing anyways. So this has been a fascinating conversation with you, Mark. Thank you so much.
Just cracking the surface. I'm thinking, holy mackerel, did we go that long?
How long have we been on? Already
Almost an hour. Yeah.
We got to get to it then. Well, yeah, there's so much we could go into and talk about. It's a big field.
Yeah. And what's really cool is when people start doing, well, as you experienced in the seminar, I decided let's do some personal coaching. If everybody was okay with it, we went around the table and just doing some quick coaching in there, that when this is applied personally and you have somebody that works with you, because I get coaching all the time. I love it because there's stuff I can't see. You know, that's to say, well, if people could see it, like, why doesn't a heart surgeon operate on himself? Because he can't. He needs somebody else to do it. So same thing with coaching and therapy. There's a lot of stuff that we can't see, but once you learn and experience at the same time, that's how you really learn. That's how you really get it, because you went through it, you experience. It's not just do this and see what happens. It's experience this, because then you can say, well, I like that, and I would like to add this to it. It's not just it's this or that. No, I'm going to add something to it. I'm going to change it a little bit, because it's your own experience. Then it becomes yours.
Yeah, that's definitely relate to that. Well, shall we talked a lot about it. Shall we go through it?
Yeah, I think you're already partly there, aren't you?
You know what? I'll tell you this story real quick because I took that class. I want you to actually say this quote at the end, that whole becoming all of who you are, and how all we actually are is changing.
Changing. It was change. All we are is change. I think it was Overdurf. It might be an NLP axiom, but I think he did it, and then he changed it. He goes, because all we are is change. That kind of puts a stop to it. Like, all we are is change, but actually goes, we're verbs. We're more verbs as human beings. So all we are is changing, continually changing.
right now.
Yeah, it's the one thing that is constant. It's funny how the the paradox of that, you know, the one constant in the universe that we know of all the time. They say taxes, and are you getting? Do I hear a sprinkler system going off?
Oh my gosh, all we are is changing for real.
Yes. Are you getting wet? Or are you okay?
Let me move locations while we set up this
Yes,
alpha.
you go ahead.
So what I was going at is this thing totally changed my life, Mark, like insane, because I had a lot of fear about talking in front of people and really being who I am in front. Oh wow, that was quick. That was just a cool little thing for the video then. But anyway, so this technique, I mean, I was doing it before, but not as deep. But it really changed my life because a lot of fears about being who I am on the phone. And since then, I started this whole YouTube channel, and I would have never been comfortable with turning the camera on and really showing who I am to the world without this technique. So like every time I'm doing a video, I'm not just looking at I can see everything around me because I'm in this technique right now. I'm always in it. So this technique totally transformed everything. So I wouldn't even be doing this podcast with you without
Well,
knowing this.
congratulations on that too, by the way.
And at the end of this, if you guys want to work with Mark, I'm gonna have his website, and you could tell he has some old. You haven't done a video in like a year, huh? This is your first one in a while.
I've done some videos that haven't come out through different people. They're still editing. A lot of times people take their time with it, and certain things if it was something that was related to a time or event or had some information in there that was relevant to Christmas time or the New Year, it's something I don't want to bring out in the middle of summertime. So, but overall, no, I haven't been doing a lot of it. The coaching I've been doing, which I don't really want to get into too much, but I've been doing some work with some executives, some salespeople, and helping them out with that. So I haven't been as prominent in doing the videos, but we're doing one now.
Cool. Well, I'm ready. I'm gonna actually go through last time I did this process, I freaking fell asleep. So I'm gonna turn my camera off, and then
I was that boring, Zach. Thanks a lot, Jeepers
yeah,
Creepers.
I entered a whole. I was in a whole other world.
Yeah,
So
it's pretty hypnotic, and I'll put like 3 things in there, and then uh, the whole process. If somebody wants to do it for coaching or a seminar or whatever, there's several different things that I can add to it. But there's a couple things we'll do here that'll trigger the events. Like I said, number one with the breathing, and then I'll add a couple more things to it. So finish up? How would you like to do this, or you want
uh,
to turn the camera around? You said, or
I'm gonna turn the camera just focusing on you, and then speaker view, and then let's see, stop video, and then yeah, just are you with me?
yep, I can hear you.
Okay, so yeah, I'm ready when you are. I'll fully participate with you.
So I'll probably just do, like 5 to 10 minutes, do a little bit. Usually
Even just
during this.
5 minutes is fine. Whatever is
Okay.
comfortable for you. Just
All
so
right.
they understand the steps and they could take away something from this and have some new tools.
Yeah. Just give them new tools. I'm going to take a little drink of my SpongeBob coffee this morning. That's a little anchor that puts me in a good mood when I'm doing some work. So basically just find yourself a place to sit or lay down somewhere you can be comfortable. You can watch the screen or not. Just listen to the sound of my voice. And the first thing that you want to start doing is to shift your breathing and to just be more conscious and more aware of your breathing as you're breathing in and out. Sometimes it's easier to breathe in through the nose and then out through the mouth. And there's different ratios that we can do, but for this one, let's just bring it in to about the count of 6 and then relax and let the breath out to about the count of 6 is exact. And 6 can be whatever you want it to be. It can be a fast 6, slow 6. You can put it on a timer. You can look at a clock and figure out what's good 6 for you. But the deal is to keep it slow and then slow it down even more and keep it equal, approximate equal. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's what's good for you. In and out. Into approximately 6, and then if you want to hold it for a second or two at the top, approximately 6 out. And it can be, that 6 can be longer or shorter for you. I don't know, but you'll know. Just be comfortable and relax. Slow the breathing down. And if you want to breathe in and out of your nose and in and out of your mouth, that's fine too. There's no exact rules on this. And once you start to get that into a steady in and out, slowing down, relaxing, just be aware and notice what's happening with your body, what's happening with your mind. Then in your own time, in your own way. Next, we'll go to the polyvagal nerve, which is around the jaw. So just let your jaw drop open. Some people need to open their mouth to do that. Some people kind of look like they're stunned or amazed, but if you just kind of drop your jaw down and relax your tongue on your jaw. So you're doing two different things, but it's in one movement. You relax your jaw and then relax your tongue on your jaw while continuing to breathe in and out. Long, deep, easy breaths. In, maybe holding for a second or two, and out. Whatever is easiest for you to breathe through your nose, your mouth, a combination, relaxing your jaw. The nerve in your jaw, I think it's on the left side of the jaw, relaxes, and it's a long nerve that goes throughout your body that has a tendency to trigger other things to relax. So breathe in, relaxing your jaw, and relaxing your tongue. A lot of times relaxing your tongue gets prepared to speak, and you're not relaxed. Your tongue will tighten up, so you relax your tongue. A lot of times it relaxes your internal dialogue, how you speak to yourself or what you're saying to yourself as you're preparing to speak. Just let that relax. Breathing, jaw, tongue. And some people like to relax the muscles in their face as that's happening, specifically around the eyes. So there's a little bit of an extra one for you. But just doing the breathing and relaxing your jaw can have amazing results. Amazing results. Relaxing your polyvagal nerve, which is a complicated medical term from Stephen Porges. He calls it polyvagal theory, which is about relaxing the jaw. When we sleep, when we relax, sometimes we're on a couch, we're listening to somebody speak or a chair, and our jaw starts to fall open. Why? Because we're relaxing. We're starting to enter into a different state. So in your own time, in your own way, just start to bring your awareness and your attention, knowing that you can do this at any time. Just go to a place by yourself without driving or operating heavy machinery or any kind of machinery. Make sure you're safe and other people are safe. And another thing that you can do is, if you're still watching this, is you can, if you haven't already, you can close your eyes. So that's 5 different things. Close your eyes, change your breathing. If you're watching me or watching this interview, you can keep your eyes open. Whatever's comfortable for you. Again, there's no right and wrongs in this. It's whatever you want to do, whatever feels comfortable to you. And as you start to bring your awareness back to my voice and your surroundings, just notice your state of being. Maybe the state that you're living in, but notice the state of your body. How do you feel differently now? What's new in your surroundings that you might notice now that you didn't notice before? How have things changed? And just make sure before you operate any machinery or do anything like driving or walking that you're fully awake and aware. Maybe a little bit of cold water on your hands, slap a little bit on your face. Make sure you're fully awake, knowing that you can do this exercise again at any time. So was that I don't know if that was 5 minutes or longer, but I kind of lose track of that time thing too when I start to get into hypnotic trances.
Well,
And I'm willing to go first. That's part of the deal of a hypnotist is you got to be willing to go first into the trance to lead your client into the trance with you so that they feel comfortable that you're going to show them the way.
Yeah, that felt amazing.
What did you notice different? Or what are you noticing different now?
Well, I noticed there's a fountain to the left of me that I've been ignoring this whole time.
Right.
And just feel it's really present. Feel good. I feel relaxed, and I just feel
Car starting.
car starting. My engine's
They,
ready to go. I don't even need this
yeah,
coffee no more.
yeah,
So
yeah. But if you notice, pay attention to what you said. You noticed your surroundings. You noticed your hearing. You noticed your feelings. You didn't talk about what you were thinking about. You're present.
right, I was present.
You came to the present.
I was in a state of Zen. My
Yeah.
nickname is Zen on
Yeah, I saw that.
yeah. Yeah, so I'm in a state of Zen, and I just feel like whatever comes at me, I'm gonna be able to handle it easily.
And how long of a period of time did it take? I mean, obviously you've been practicing this for a little while longer than most people on this, but it doesn't take very long. And some of the other meditations that we go through or when I'm working with people in the coaching, it depends on where they're at, what issues they're going through, who they are, what their disposition is, their continence to say, um, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. I don't want to do that one. Can we do this one? I have clients to say, will you do this one with me this week? Will you take me through that one? Sure. Or I notice that as they're going through it, then they come out and their issues are gone or they've diminished a lot. And I'll make a mark and say, okay, I'm going to take you through this meditation again. This really seemed to work. But that one in general works good for people because those things work on human beings.
Well, you're actually tapping into that. I call it the vagus nerve because I'm from Vegas, but that vagus nerve that really they're calling it a miracle nerve now in science. Like it's really powerful. So, but Mark, I have 4% battery left. Would love to stay on. You're more than welcome to come back. I'm sure we're gonna get a lot of feedback from this episode. Any last words you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, just one of the things that over 30 years of coaching and therapy that I've done with people is people get with the stress, they think they're stuck and they can't get out. And they're stuck with this for life. And I've worked with so many people to help get them out of that and get them past that. And just a simple meditation, look what it's done for you. But when I was a mechanic years ago and in the military as a mechanic, it was to diagnose problems. First of all, preventive maintenance, but also if there's an issue, diagnose it. What is it? So I got to the point where I could hear and look and see something. And then I took that skill and mapped it across to human beings. And you're not stuck. You can get past it. You can grow. you can shift, and that's available to you too. And that's one of the great things through what we've learned about neurolinguistic programming, basically, which is mostly what I do. I do a little bit of hypnosis, but there's similar things to adjust states, to know that you can then, through adjusting your state, knowing what it is, get out of an issue. And that gives freedom. And that's one of the things maybe next time we'll talk about, is a little bit about, the freedom through investing, the freedom through having control of your own mind. But if they have control of your mind, and I say they, that could be the newspapers, the television, which is a big one because it gets in there, the phones, they can control what you're doing. It's kind of you're stuck in a sense. Let's get you back to freedom. And if that's what you want to do, you want to watch the ads, you want to look at your phone, that's your choice. But at least, and there's something you had mentioned earlier, if you know something else exists, and you can go up and down the scale and not be stuck, but you can go up and down the scale and then go, this is what I want to do, or this is what I don't want to do. But then you have an option. And I like giving people options. Know that you have options available.
Giving people their choices back. You're not victims.
Yep. And that to me, that equates more with freedom.
Well, that's what this channel is all about: freedom, liberty, and becoming prosperous in the mind and outside, everything. So
what you're capable of being. Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
But let me, I want to stay on, but let me cut this stream real quick because I want to make sure it doesn't die and we lose the recording. But amazing episode. Really excited to publish this. I'll send you the link, and all of Mark's website contact information will be in the description. So give us a thumbs up, leave comments, and make sure to support Mark if you need coaching or need a system reset. This is your guy. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, peace and have a good Sunday.
Thanks, Zach. Thanks to your listeners as well.
All right, man. Have a great day.